Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us today in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll start with Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Hare Krishna.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaridhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaridhari, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaridhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaridhari, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, आप सबका स्वागत है, आप सबका अभिनंदन है.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। और जो न्यू व्यूअर्स हैं ज़रूर अपनी लोकेशन मेंशन करिए सो दैट वी नो वेयर आर यू ऑल पार्टिसिपेटिंग फ्रॉम। गीता देशा जी, हरे कृष्णा, नरसिंह राव जी, वीरेश्वर झा जी, निधि गुप्ता जी, बबलू घराई जी, आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। और नए व्यूअर्स के बेनिफिट के लिए हम बता दें, जीव तत्व प्रभु जी श्रीमद् भागवतम पे क्लासेस देते हैं और इस वक्त सीक्वेंस में वो चैप्टर लेवल पे क्लासेस दे रहे हैं स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम कैंटो 1। इस वक्त हम पहुंच चुके हैं कैंटो 3 पर। कैंटो 3 का चैप्टर 10 पर आज होगी क्लास और जीव तत्व प्रभु जी चैप्टर लेवल पे हम सबसे लेसन शेयर करते हैं। सौम्यदीप ठाकुर जी, हरे कृष्णा, भरत चवन जी, श्वेता केशरी जी, जिन्हें श्रीमद् भागवतम के पास्ट के लेसन्स वॉच करने हैं वो इसी भगवत गीता पेज पे हमारी प्लेलिस्ट पे जाकर रिकॉर्डिंग्स देख सकते हैं। ये लेसन्स, ये क्लासेस यूट्यूब पर भी अवेलेबल हैं। तो जीव तत्व प्रभु जी, please go ahead with the lessons, beautiful teachings on chapter 10 of Canto 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for Mangalacharan prayers.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रवतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृदयन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सताम्।
नष्टप्रायेषु
भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया
भगवतेरुत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So please join us in the recitation of the first verse. So today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 10, Divisions of the Creation. And we will be focusing on how to overcome illusions of life and come closer to Krishna. So there are 5 kinds of illusions. So again we will share that, and later on that would be a question, so you may want to focus on those. So again, the kind of illusions that we need to overcome and come closer to Krishna. And the process is very simple. So please join us in the recitation of the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 10. Vidur uvacha अंतरहिते भगवती ब्रह्मा लोक पितामहः प्रजाः ससर्ज कतिधा दैहिकीर्मानसिर विभुः. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Vidur said, O great sage, please let me know how Brahma, the grandfather of the planetary inhabitants, created the bodies of the living entities from his own body and mind after the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. There is no purport. Please join us in the recitation of Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dishtarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So this is a very beautiful chapter where we get many important lessons. And here we also learn This is an inquiry by who? Vidurji. So again, many people remember Vidurji happens to be a Dasi Putra, son of a maid servant, but also son of Vyasdev. So he is a seminal son of Vyasdev, and he is half brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, King Pandu. So that's why in Srimad Bhagavatam, Maitreya Muni, Sutta Goswami as well as Shukdev Goswami, they are referring to him as King Vidur many times, because he is from a kingly family. But on top of that, he is one of the Mahajanas. Who is he? Actually, he is Yamraj, who was cursed by Manduka Rishi, also sometimes known as Mandavya Muni. He had cursed Yamraj to take birth as a Shudra. So he had taken birth as a Shudra, as a Dasi Putra. But again, even in that position, he was able to get full realization, self-realization by the mercy of Maitreya Muni. And this direction was shown to him by Uddhav. So again, how many of you have confusions in life, right? How many of you feel that, how can we get started in our spiritual journey? So the most important aspect is, when we are starting our spiritual journey, is like to expect that how. And before how, we need to know, to be able to do how is action oriented. How do we get started? It is action oriented. But first we need to know, what is this spiritual journey about? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. We all should be asking this question, a very important question in his life. Like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Why are people suffering in this world? Why am I suffering in this world? How can I be happy? Anand Bhaya Abhyasat. So everybody wants to be happy. Raise your hand if you want to be happy. Again, and this is not material happiness, flickering happiness. We are talking of eternal happiness. How many of you want to be eternally happy? So this is where we focus on our title, how to overcome illusions of life and come closer to Krishna, because that would make us happy. Now, what is there, then of course there is one more question that needs to be asked. So how focuses on action? What focuses on knowing, so that we can act properly? But why is the motivation? Why should we be seeking happiness? Why should we be seeking the purpose of life? To overcome the miseries, to overcome the anxiety, to overcome the fear. These are the questions, related to why, these are the responses to that question related to why. Why should we be seeking spiritual guidance? Why should we be taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master? Why should we be focusing on the 4 regulative principles? Why should we be chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? All these whys are simply answered by this fact that we are suffering in this material world. This material world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam, as Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. It is a place of misery, dukkhalaya. And ashashvatam, it is temporary in nature. So, happiness and distress, they come and go, and we are wandering in this material world. So again, Brahmana bhavite kauna bhagyavana jiva Guru Krishna prasade paya bhakti lata bija. So a fortunate soul gets the mercy of Chaitya Guru, Lord Krishna as Super Soul Paramatma in our heart. He gives us, He introduces us, He brings in our life a bona fide spiritual master whose shelter we can take. So it is by the mercy of Chaitya Guru, the Super Soul in our heart, Paramatma in our heart, जिनकी कृपा से हम साक्षात गुरु के दर्शन कर सकते हैं और उनकी शरण ले सकते हैं. And by taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, what happens? We take instructions, right? When we follow the disciplic succession, we become a disciple. Disciple, what is the definition of disciple? If you know it, please write it. What is the definition of a disciple? A disciple is one who is ready to be disciplined, right? Who is ready to understand and follow the regulative principles, who is willing to, wake up. And just like, in the beginning when we start chanting, there is nama prad. Sometimes we're chanting forgetfulness, our mind is wandering, but we have to make an effort to bring our mind together, to be attentive. Then comes the next stage. After nama prad comes to be able to overcome the offenses of the chanting of the holy name. What is the process? Tell us please in the comments if you know the process. How can we overcome the offenses committed during the chanting of the holy name? Well, the answer is simple. It is more chanting attentively. By chanting attentively, we can overcome the offenses of the due to the chanting. And by attentive chanting, we come to the level of namabhas. Namabhas is we start to see, just like sun has not arisen, yet at the same time in the east you see the cloud, the sky becoming orangish, right? The light appears. So again, रोशनी हो जाती है, लेकिन अभी सन नहीं निकला है, तब भी उससे पहले ही. And this is Arun, we all know, yes, the charioteer of Vivaswan, of sun god. The charioteer has this effulgence that is causing the namabhas. So again, the beautiful orangish hue that appears on the eastern horizon, that is like, similarly we start to experience the mercy, the blessings of the holy name. We start to become more and more attentive. We are able to get our mind closer to focus. Just like a naughty child, sometimes runs away, but the parents very nicely, give him sometimes sweet. You will get nice prasad. Let's chant together. So the child is ready, right? That it will get all the toys and so forth. So in this manner, we attract the child back, saying that yes, this is for your benefit, that you will become happy. And we attentively chant the holy name. And after namabhas comes Shuddhanam, with love, with attention, with affection, with attraction, with absorption, we chant the holy name. And it is at that stage that we make real advancement. And namabhas is the stage like we are getting into the car, but it is only when we do Shuddhanam, this is where the car is moving. This is also very important for us to take to. So, yes, we are going to focus on how to reduce, but it is very important. Why? To overcome all miseries of life, to overcome the fearful state. So once Srila Prabhupada, he was, after his discourse, he was asking, if there is fear in life. So this one gentleman said, oh no, I'm fearless. So Srila Prabhupada said, so when you drive your car, do you stop, when the traffic light goes red? He said, yes. And Srila Prabhupada said that, see, you fear. Because you fear that if you don't stop, then you may be hit by another car. So that's fear. Now the gentleman, he accepted that. Sometimes we realize, sometimes we are simply law-abiding citizens. So again, we are not following the stick, but rather we are by nature good, And so we simply follow the regulations. And yes, this material place is a place to fear. Yet at the same time, as a law-abiding citizen does not have any fear, when staying in a country. Similarly, the devotees, even when staying in the material world, following the laws laid down by Lord Shri Krishna himself and coming to us through disciplic succession and being expressed so nicely in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Hare Krishna, we can simply follow those laws. So again in Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna, his glories are there. The glories of his devotees are there. Sometimes people ask, why are there so much glories about Lord Krishna's devotee in Srimad Bhagavatam? The answer is very simple. Because to be able to follow, we need examples. And this is the offense that we committed while we are in this material world, that we became jealous of Krishna. So by hearing about Krishna, we will know about Krishna, that how great God is, right? Yet at the same time, to follow, we need an example that we can follow. Who we can follow. Similarly, like Vidurji, he's asking such wonderful inquiries. So he's a Mahajana. Mahajana yena gatha pantha. So again, we follow the footsteps of Mahajana. We follow the instructions of Mahajana. We follow the examples of Mahajanas. And Vidurji is setting those examples for us, so that how we should be hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. And when we hear about Lord Shri Krishna, then the devotees become happy. When we chant his holy name, then all the devotees become happy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And when we discuss the glories of Lord Krishna's devotees, the Vaishnavas, then Lord Krishna becomes happy. So we want both parties to become happy so that we get their mercy, we get their blessings, हमें उनकी अनुकंपा मिलेगी, and then we can progress very nicely under their guidance, following their instructions. उनका आशीर्वाद से हम बहुत तेजी से progress कर सकते हैं. Hare Krishna. So now, what has happened? In the translation, it was given that Viduji asked this question after Maitreya Muni covered that, what did Brahma, how did Brahma start the creative, activity. So the creation in this material universe, it is also referred to as secondary creation. But then, in this chapter, something that's shocking happens. We are thinking, okay, so there is primary creation, secondary creation. But within this secondary creation, there are 10 creations being talked about. And there are 3 levels of annihilations being talked about. And before that, the 5 kinds of illusions that we should overcome. That is also being talked about by Srila Prabhupada. So how can we overcome illusions of life and come closer to Krishna? To be able to answer this question, first we have to know what are the different 5 kinds of illusions. The 5 kinds of illusions are, first is attachment. This comes, aham mameti. Mameti is because of attachment, this is mine and this is theirs, and always wanting to take someone else's property. That is not the right way, but with having a feeling that this is mine, this is my son, this is my wife, this is my house, this is my table, this is my pen, this is my body. Again, thinking even that way. So again, everything has been provided to us by material energy, but we get attached to this because of illusion. And this illusion, this is avidya, is the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. Even the mode of goodness is one of the modes of material nature, so we should be very careful. And then what is the second? So again, first one causes lust. Attachment causes lust, to acquire more, to hoard more, right? We have seen so many examples being given in the scriptures that when you put a bowl of water with some grains outside for the birds, the bird comes and it says, sufficient grain that it needs. जो पक्षियों के लिए हम कभी कभी दाना डालते हैं, बाहर पानी रखते हैं, तो पक्षी आते हैं, birds आते हैं, they eat whatever they want, and then for their children they take some little bit in their beaks and they go home. But if you do the same thing for human beings, it is said that if you put some big sacks of grains outside and tell human beings that to take, so they won't just take what is there, given, but rather because of illusion, because of attachment, they will just take the whole sack. Even if they cannot finish it, they will still take it. Even if sometimes it gets, wasted. But the greed, that lust causes this illusion because of attachment. Dhyayato vishyan pumsa sangas teshu pajayate sangas sanjayate kama kamat krodha vijayate क्रोधाद भवति सम्मोहा सम्मोहा स्मृति भ्रमसाद स्मृति भ्रमसाद बुद्धि नाशो बुद्धि नाशाद विनश्यति. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Dhyayato vishyan pumsa sangashteshu pajayate. When we meditate on the sense objects, various items that we feel attachment for, again the attachment develops by meditating on the sense objects. Sangha sanjayate kama. So again, by attachment comes काम, lust develops. काम, lust का development होता है because of attachment. कामात क्रोधो विचायते. And this काम जो है उसके कारण क्या rise करता है? क्रोध, anger. उससे anger बढ़ता है हमारे अंदर. हमारे अंदर heat generate होती है because of this lust. It burns us from inside actually. And we lose our life. The duration of our life shortens. We don't realize that. Krodhat bhavati sammohat. So it causes delusion. That is the illusion we are talking about, caused by the material energy. In this delusion, what happens? Sammoha smriti brahmasat. Our memory is bewildered because of this illusion. Being deluded, we lose our memory. It's bewildered. And smriti brahmasat buddhi nashyo. And our intelligence का नाश हो जाता है. हमारी जो बुद्धि होती है उसका नाश हो जाता है. बुद्धि नाश. Intelligence is destroyed. Buddhi nashad vinashyati. And when the intelligence is destroyed, we fall down. We don't want to fall down away from Krishna. We want to attached to Krishna. So instead of attaching ourselves, getting attached to the sense objects, we want to attach ourselves with Lord Shri Krishna, His name, form, activities, pastimes, simply by taking to the chanting of His holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So again, the first one is attachment. The second one is hatred, anger. So now you also learn from Bhagavad Gita how anger arises. Right? So again, from attachment, anger arises. Second is hatred. And then comes pride. Pride cometh before fall. One becomes very proud. And this is also an influence of, attachment and lust, that one becomes pride. One can become pride because of many different kind of conditioning, thinking that I am this body. Sometimes people, it is said that a pauper is proud of his penny. So whatever one has, one can become proud, because material energy, she uses her influence in a way that whatever somebody has, she wants them to become proud. If you are an American, you say, I'm a proud American. If you are an Indian, अगर भारतीय हैं तो हम proud भारतीय हैं. If you are a European, you say you are a proud European. But before that, you are a human being. Before that, we are a living entity. Jivera Surupoya Krishnera Nityadas. And a living entity as an eternal servant. Nityadas. Bhagwan Krishna ka Nityadas रहते हुए हमें ये समझना चाहिए कि pride is against our nature. Our nature is to always be humble, always be tolerant, always be ready to give respects to all, understanding that everyone is very dear to Lord Shri Krishna, not expecting any respect for ourselves, but continuously engaging every moment of our life in devotional service, bhakti yoga mein leen rehna chahiye. So this is now hatred that we talked about. The second one that comes before pride is also because of envy. Envy comes because of I. When we think I am so and so, I am an American, I am an Indian, I am a man, I am a graduate, I am a CEO, I am a CIO, I am a manager, right? All these different designations. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. So we should not be looking at all these upadhis which are associated with the bodies, but we should become vinamra by nature. We should become humble. We should become sober in our nature, understanding that we have to engage in Lord Krishna's service. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchate. By engaging in the service of Lord Rishikesha. Rishikesha means master of the senses. All our senses will be satisfied. Anukulena Krishna Anushilinam. We should engage in devotional service in Anukul Bhav. Anukul means as Lord Krishna desires. And there are two very simple aspects. Again, we talk about Sharanagati verses also, where the first two aspects are Anukulesya Sankalpa, Pratikulesya Vajam. So this is the beginning of surrender. To engage, to accept everything that is favorable for our devotional service, and to reject everything that is unfavorable to our devotional service. So that is a very important aspect. So we should not be thinking, I am this body, I am a man, I am a husband, I am a wife, or I am a father. Rather, we should be thinking, I am an eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So as a servant, I should be constantly engaging in serving Lord Shri Krishna with our mind, body and words. Three ways we can perform activities. With our mind, our senses, the karmendriyas, right? And then we have body, mind. Mind is like with our thoughts, are constantly thinking of the name, form, activities, pastimes, and words by chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now comes ignorance, avidya. Now this is the very nature of this material world. It is also called ocean of nascence, right? Ocean of ignorance. It is a vast ocean that we have to cross. Now think of the ways you can cross an ocean, right? So first is, you can cross an ocean by practicing how to swim across it. Now that's very difficult, but that's what Ashtanga yogis are doing. Now second way is by joining the Sankirtan movement, right? The congregational chanting, because this is the yajna for this age. So there is a great cruise ship going where all the devotees are singing and dancing the glories of the holy name. And the favorable winds are the spiritual masters who are, helping us move in the right direction, in the direction of Lord Shri Krishna. And then there is a third way also. Which is the third way? Tesham aham samuddhata mrityu sansara sagarat bhavamina chirat patha maya veshita chetasam. In Bhagavad Gita, 12th chapter, Lord Krishna reveals this third way. That when a devotee is constantly engaging in, remembering me, then I am a swift deliverer from this ocean of material nuisance. So how? By taking shelter, by taking devotional service of Lord Shri Krishna, so that He can just pick us up from this material ocean and sit Him along with on His chariot, on His vehicle, His Garud, and simply take us. We say it in the case of Gajendra. We say it in the case of great devotees like Dhruv Maharaj and others, who simply were able to fly over this material nuisance. So even though Dhruv planet is also referred to as North Star, right? It is in this material world, but it is part of Vaikuntha. There is no misery, because this is where Lord resides in the Shri Saga. So this is again another secret we hear from the scriptures. And then, last but not the least, is the false identification, thinking that I am this body, I have these various designations. So you can see all these 5 kind of illusions are very much interrelated, because they are friends of each other. They are just like Pandavas were together, right? But serving Lord Shri Krishna, now these 5, attachment, hatred, pride, ignorance and false identification, these 5 are friends who are serving Maya Devi and overpowering us. But who is to blame? We are getting conditioned. We are agreeing to suffer material energy, because she is like, she very nicely lures us away from Lord Shri Krishna by giving us different kind of allurements, different kind of attractions she plays. There's a beautiful story in the scriptures that appears that there were 2 monks. They were, crossing the river. They were about to cross the river, and there was a lady. She comes and she says, "Can you help me cross the river?" So the older monk, he says, "Okay, why don't you climb on my shoulder?" The younger one is shocked. What did he say? But the older one, he simply gets the lady on his shoulder. He crosses the river and then puts her down, and then they are continuing to walk. And after some time, being constantly disturbed, thinking about what just happened, the younger monk says, "How could you carry that lady on your shoulder? We are not supposed to even touch a lady." Well, the older monk smiles and says, "Well, I dropped her at the other side of other bank of the river, but you are still carrying her in your mind." So again, this is illusion. It very easily sets in and thinks that we should be looking in this manner at everyone. Now there are so many other questions. Means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said that whoever can understand the science of Krishna consciousness and can preach can become the Guru. Yet at the same time, similarly in delusion, sometimes people ask, can the ladies be or not be, spiritual masters? Well, it is very clearly given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whoever, right? Anyone who can understand the science of Krishna consciousness can become Guru. The requirement is the person should be coming in disciplic succession, should be referring to bona fide scriptures, should be, passing on the message as it is to help others come closer to Krishna. That is the service of a Guru, right? Guru also means heavy. And they are, again, there is instructing spiritual masters and they are initiating spiritual masters. Initiating spiritual masters who give Diksha, right? Diksha is where we get the higher taste and the higher vision. So that is also very, very important for us to take. So first step is by chanting of the holy name, minimum 16 rounds. That's minimum. Sometimes people say, oh, I just finished my 16 rounds, and then they put the jap mala that if Krishna is to search, he may find it difficult at times. Sometimes we joke around this. So again, it is very important to understand that 16 rounds are the minimum rounds. There is no maximum, and on special days like Ekadashi, Janmashtami, Gaur Purnima and other occasions, minimum is 25 rounds. There is no limit to, what is the maximum. You can chant Kirtaniya Sada Hari, you can eternally, constantly chant, but in the right mood, with attentiveness, with the mood of humility, with the mood of tolerance. So here we are in this chapter, Viduji is asking this question. And it's very interesting that as Viduji is asking this question of Maitreya Muni, it is not Maitreya Muni who immediately responds, because Sutta Goswami gives this reference, and the purport Srila Prabhupada says, why is this happening? So he's actually, sometimes we are surprised. He's asking this question and Maitreya Muni should be responding, but Sutta Goswami is responding, because there are 3 consecutive conversations going on when this description is being given. So again, it is Shukdev Goswami who recited Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj on the bank of the Ganges, where Sutta Goswami was present. So later on, Sutta Goswami went to Naimisharanya, where in the company of great sages, he recited the whole Srimad Bhagavatam as he heard from Shukdev Goswami, and their spokesperson of the sages was Shaunaka Rishi. And in the description as Sutta Goswami is describing, he is describing the conversation between Maitreya Muni and Viduji, Mahatma Vidur. And here, so again, we should understand from the bodily designation, it appears that Mahatma Vidur is a Shudra, but we also know that he is one of the Mahajanas, and we should follow the path of Mahajanas. So similarly, we should understand in this conversation, Sutta Goswami is reciting at Naimisharanya, so he is saying that Maitreya Muni is feeling very energized, very enlivened, he's very pleased by these inquiries by Viduji, because his purpose is to understand the creation of this material world so that we can come out of the illusions of this material world and understand why there are different kind of progenies have been established, and telling us that the true purpose of material world is that the suffering souls can go back home, back to Godhead. So it is like the secondary purpose which the living entities have. So there are 2 plans. One is Krishna's plan, and another one is living entities' plans. Living entities' plan, what is their plan? That they all want to enjoy apart from Krishna. And Lord Krishna, he says to Lord Brahma that those who think anything apart from me, that is delusion. So people are themselves accepting to be deluded, accepting themselves to have false ego, accepting themselves to be looking at false identification and becoming proud, becoming attached, becoming, these are all illusions. So people are choosing these illusions. But those who are intelligent, those who are sober, those who are smart, they simply understand that we don't want to be an illusion, because the only thing we get in illusion is miseries, anxieties, fearfulness and so forth. All kind of bad qualities develop in the body, and we suffer for eternity. We don't want to suffer. We want to experience happiness. We don't want to be just at peaceful stage, because that is zero, right? We want to be positive infinite, not negative infinite. So we want to progress ahead. We want to be happy. We want to be rejoicing. We want to experience transcendental bliss. And that comes when we engage in devotional service, in serving Lord Shri Krishna, in chanting His holy name, glorifying His name from activities, pastimes. So, first is, we also understand how can we come to that stage with the chanting of the holy name, and how does this happen. So this inquiry of Viduji is very important. Of course, his last verse in this chapter is, he wants to know about the descendants of Manus. So again, and we are called Manushya. So we are Manava, Manushya, we are the descendants of Manu. Yet at the same time, how does it all happen? What are the different kind of living entities? And how does Lord Brahma starts the creation in this material universe? That has been explained by Maitreya Muni. So we understand, we will be going into that area, but first is we want to understand how to overcome the illusion. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So the simple, how can we be at Brahman stage, at transcendental platform? How can we be liberated from the three modes of material nature? Because by staying at Brahman, we become prasannatma. Na shochati na kankshati. We does not lament about the past. We does not aspire for the future. So these are the two things that cause anxieties. And in current moment, we are engaging in devotional service, glorifying Lord Krishna's name, form, activities, pastimes. And so we become prasannatma. We don't feel any anxiety. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. And we look at all living entities with equal vision, right? And this has been also explained in Bhagavad Gita very nicely. How do you see everyone with equal vision? Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavi hastini shuni chaiva shopakecha pandita samadarshina. So pandita, a person who is sober, right, who knows, who is in knowledge, how does he see everyone? And what are the different varieties being identified here? Brahmane, a Brahman, Gavi, a cow, Hastini, an elephant, Shuni Chaiva Shopakecha, a dog and a dog eater. He looks at that, a Pandit looks at all these personalities, with equal vision, understanding that these are all living entities, they are all conscious. That's the, effect, that's the symptom of the presence of Jiva, like living entity in these bodies. And in the same bodies, along with the living entity in the heart, is residing Paramatma, the super soul. भगवान परमात्मा के रूप में हमारे हृदय में वास करते हैं, सबके हृदय में वास करते हैं. So Samadharshina. So one can look at them with equal vision. So this is where we can overcome all illusions by respectfully engaging ourselves in devotional service, yet be very conscious of everyone who is around us, because we don't want to commit any kind of offense, not even a Javana Prad, Jiva Prad. Again, there are three true dharmas being identified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this Kali age, in these times. What are these? Jivodaya, right? So first we should be very much conscious of other living entities. We should be showing compassion towards other living entities. Vaishnava Seva, right? And a Nam Ruchi. So we should be serving the devotees, Vaishnava Seva, and we should be having a attachment to the chanting of the holy name. So again, now if you can remember any of the illusions, we talked about 5 illusions, 5 types of illusions. Please write in the comments what are these different illusions, so that we can share with others what you have understood. So the 5 kinds of illusions that we need to overcome in this life and come to Krishna. Now, here in this particular chapter, it is described that Lord, he has his another external potency called Kala. So, by means of Kala, it appears that it is separate from Krishna, but you cannot separate the energy from the energetic. Without the energetic, the energy has no meaning. Without the energetic does not have any meaning, right? अगर आप किसी को बोलते हैं शक्तिमान और उसकी शक्ति, आप उन दोनों को सेपरेट नहीं कर सकते. अगर शक्तिमान से आपने उसकी शक्ति हटा दी तो वो शक्तिमान नहीं रहा. और सिमिलरली अगर शक्ति किसी शक्तिमान के पास नहीं है तो उसकी सिग्निफिकेंस भी नहीं है. So again, you cannot separate these two aspects. So Lord Krishna and his multifarious energies, right? Basically they are in 3 categories. Internal potency, represented by Radharani. Again, there is also Allahadini, Samvit. There are 3 kinds of internal potencies. Then there is external potency, Mahamaya, represented by Goddess Durga. And then there is living entity, we, right? Tatashta Shakti, we are the marginal potencies of Lord Shri Krishna. So all three kind of energy. So this is an external energy, Kala, time. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, time I am the devourer of all things. So it is only in the material universes that you see this time factor in the material universes. It is not present in the spiritual universes because they are eternally situated and maintained by the internal potency of Lord Shri Krishna. So they are eternally situated, while the Kal is what is causing. And living entities, they get conditioned because of the mixing of Kal that causes, the stirring of the three modes of material nature. So Kal and Kali. It is very interesting that in the previous chapters we heard how Goddess Durga has been referred to as Kali, the external material energy of the Lord, being incited, being agitated by another external potency of the Lord, Kal, time. Because sometimes people say, well, in Bhagavad Gita, it is not Lord Krishna who is speaking, it is Kal who is speaking. Well, Kal is just the external potency of Lord Shri Krishna. He says Kal I am because it is non-different from Lord Shri Krishna. So, Lord Brahma, he is, starting this creative activity. He is starting the creation in this material universe of the different kind of living entities. And sometimes people, they think this material world and all the sense objects as they are looking for sense gratification separate from Lord Shri Krishna. It is very simple example is given by Srila Prabhupada. He says that when you record someone's voice and you play it appears that the voice is separate now from that person. Because now even if the person is not there, you can play the voice. Like in the morning chanting sessions, we play Prabhupada chanting the holy names, right? And we chant along with him. So that, yes, and he is directly linking us with Lord Shri Krishna by doing the chanting session. So we understand. But sometimes, again, similarly, this is like an analogy given, where somebody's voice when recorded appears to be separate from the person, but in reality it is not separate. It is a delusion that it is separate, because just by hearing someone's voice, we can immediately understand who's the person speaking. Their image appears in our mind. The body starts experiencing different kind of expressions, feelings, right? Think of a person who has harmed you very badly. The moment you hear his voice, immediately your body starts getting those negative emotions, right? And similarly, think of Lord Shri Krishna, Radharani and the devotees who have been constantly encouraging us to take to devotion service. Then immediately our body starts to get positive emotions. We start to feel liberated from the three modes of material nature. We are situated on the transcendental platform because that's where our mind is. Our mind is on the spiritual platform. Our body comes to the spiritual platform. Our words in alignment also follow them on the spiritual platform. So we become transcendental. Now it is as Lord Brahma is continuing to describe. There is a very nice verse in Vishnu Purana that describes the 8.4 million species, right? So this is what, above and beyond what chapter covers, we always cover something interesting. So we would like to cover that as well. So in Vishnu Purana it's given a couple of places. It's also given in Padma Purana. Jalija Nava Lakshani Stavara Laksha Vimshati Kramayo Rudra Sankhya Pakshinam Dashalakshanam Trimishal Pashvaha Chatur Manushaha. So what is this? Jalaja Nava. So there are 9, Lakshani means lakhs, 100,000, right? So 900,000 species living in the water, 9 lakhs species they are living in the water. So they are aquatic, right? So they are fishes, and they are different kind of living entities, embodied living entities. They are in the water, and there are Sthavara Laksha Vimshati. Laksha again is lakhs, Vimshati is twice, so 20. Vimshati is 20. So 20 lakhs are the non-moving living entities. So what are these non-moving living entities? These are the hills, the mountains, the trees. So all these are also living entities. There are 2 million of them. 20, 100,000. So that is 2 million living entity, non-moving living entities, Thavara. Thavara means one who was stable, non-moving, was staying at one place, such as trees and plants. And then comes Kramayo Rudra Sankhya Kaha. So there are 1100,000 species of insects and reptiles. So that is 1100,000, that is 1.1 million species of insects and reptiles. So these are the different kind of bodies that we see, the conditioned bodies. And there are Pakshinam Daksha Lakshanam. So 100,000 are the birds, the kind of birds. That is 1 million species of birds. And Trimishal Lakshani Pashvaha. So Trimishal, so 100,000 varieties are the the Pashus, the quadrupeds. So that is 100,000 is 3 million varieties of animals that exist, the quadrupeds, those who have 4 legs, they exist. And there are Chatur Lakshani Manushaha, 4 lakh varieties of human beings, human species. So these are, don't add apes and monkeys in there. Just in the human beings, there are 4 lakh varieties of species, human beings that exist. Now, if you talk to doctors, they will say they only understood one, Homo sapien, as the human being. Well, this is Shabda Praman, not perceived, because perception is incomplete. Our senses are defective. We have talked about this. We don't just follow our senses. We don't seek our, perception of our senses. We don't even seek hypothesis. We seek the truth which comes to us in disciplic succession directly from Lord Shri Krishna. And in disciplic succession, we are hearing that there are 4 lakh kinds of human beings. And that's why, the 4 kinds of people who don't accept to Lord Shri Krishna, there is also one category, the most fallen of human species. So within human species, there are different categories of human species, and the most fallen ones also don't take to devotional service. So we talked about 8.4 millions, right, type of bodies, the conditioned bodies that, we living entities can have. But also understand that they are unlimited living entities, even though they appear to be of same size. They are all spiritual spark, coming from Lord Shri Krishna, yet at the same time they are unlimited living entities. And similarly, we should understand that even though this material universe is there, who is the supreme proprietor of the material universe is? It is Lord Shri Krishna, because Lord Brahma, he cannot produce different elements. He can manipulate the elements to create 8.4 millions, and he is also creating various living entities, the rishis, the manus. Devashi Narad appears from his spiritual part of his body. Marichi appears from his mind, right? So we see how he is creating various other personalities, the Prajapatis, the forefathers. They are appearing. Daksha, his description will come extensively as how his 2 important births, as he leads the progeny in this material universe under the directions. Of course, the original Prajapati in this material universe is Lord Brahma. And then he also from his body produces many other Prajapatis, many of the rishis and the devas and so forth. So that is there. That is why we understand that yes, 8.4 million kind of species have been discussed in this chapter. And yet at the same time, everything that is being provided, like the body, the various ingredients being provided, all these have been provided by the material energy. Only Lord Brahma, he is appearing from the navel of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Yet at the same time, when he is appearing on this lotus flower, he is seeing his lotus petals spreading everywhere. And this lotus petal is formed of the living entities, the culmination of all the living entities. And so he first establishes the 3 varieties, the upper planets, heavenly planets, earthly planets, and then the lower planets. And then the 14 planetary systems have been established by Lord Brahma. So he's creating all these planets. Talking about a car is such a complex method. Can you imagine how complex it would be to create the 14 planetary systems? And then not all 8.4 million species are visible on each of the planet. They are distributed across the universe. Right? So that is also there. Yet at the same time, we also understand that there are different demigods. We covered it during the discussion of universal form of the Lord. They control various senses that we have. Right? For the eye, it is controlled by light. In the absence of light, our eyes are useless. Right? That's why हम लोग कोई ब्लाइंड पर्सन देखते हैं बोलते हैं इसकी आँख की रोशनी चली गई है. That's why he is blind, because it's only in light our eyes are useful. And lights are distributed by sun rays. Now when we think of sun rays, immediately we think of Lord Krishna, right? Just because sun is millions of miles away, yet with the sunlight we can perceive the presence of sun. Similarly, even though Lord Krishna is in Golok Vrindavan in his spiritual abode, constantly engaging in his rasa dance, by chanting of the holy name, we can perceive him here, right here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the energy of the Lord, we understand the material energy is called avidya, ignorance. And so, people who are conditioned thinking, being in illusion, the 5 kinds of illusion that we talked about, they get bewildered, right? And they become conditioned. But the devotees, when engaging in material, in devotional service, they are under the shelter of vidya, right? Under the internal potency. And where is this given? It's given in Bhagavad Gita. Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim ashrayaha. So the ones who are Mahatmas, right, who are devotees of the Lord, they are under the shelter of Lord's internal potency, Radharani, Yoga Maya. So again, we get the shelter of Lord's internal potency. And sometimes, even when cursed, some personalities may appear, but because they are under the potency of and under the influence of Lord's internal potency, they appear very powerful. We will be hearing about them like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Even though they appeared as demons, they were actually devotees of the Lord. And sometimes people who are conditioned near to Krishna consciousness, they get bewildered. They're like, but these were demons, they were causing havoc in this material world. They were only showing that this material place, this material world is dukkhalayam shashvatam. It is not a place for a gentleman or a lady. It is not a place that we are of. We are in this world but not of this world. So we are living entities and we want to go back home, back to Godhead, because we belong. We are just having, just like a tourist visits a place, we are just visiting this place, but we should not forget that we have to use our return ticket, and that return ticket is charged by one simple process, by the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And so, in this chapter, there are 9 different kinds of creations besides the one that naturally occurs has been described. Right? The first one is the creation because of the interaction of the 3 modes of material nature, which were agitated by Kal, right, by the time. And then there are 3 different kinds of annihilations due to eternal time, again Kal, right? And the material elements and the quality of one's work has been described as well. So these have been described in this chapter, and then as these descriptions have been given, there are some interesting aspects being identified where, different kind of living entities, their characteristics have been discussed. I would like to quickly cover the different 9 types of creations. They are starting different 9 kinds of creations. This is described in the 14th verse. In the 15th verse, the first one is described as the one that was created. The first creation was with Mahat Tattva, right? The sum total of material ingredients. तो उससे पहला creation हुआ, right? Mahat Tattva के कारण. And then the second creation was interaction due to the presence of the false ego, and the sense perceptions are created in the third creation. And fourth creation is the creation of knowledge and of working capacity, that we are able to engage in various kind of activities. The fifth creation is that of the controlling deities by the interaction of the mode of goodness, of which mind is the sum total. The sixth creation is of the ignorant darkness of the living entities, by which the master acts as a fool. So we living entities are actually higher than the material energy, but we act as a fool in delusion. So we should overcome the 5 kinds of illusions that's caused by this material energy. And then the creation of Brahma has been described, and it is described that Lord Brahma has this matter of creation because he has the brain like that of the personality of Godhead. And how come he has a brain like that of the personality of Godhead? Lord Brahma is described because he is engaging in his activities while meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like Arjun, he was Mama Smaran Yuddhacha. So Lord Krishna says that thinking of me, meditating on me, as if you're serving me, you should engage in your prescribed duties. So again, constitutional position has been aligned with the prescribed duties. So similarly, Lord Brahma, as a devotee of Lord Shri Krishna, is engaged in the creation. The 7th creation is that of immovable entities, which are of 6 kinds. What are the immovable? Is Thavara, right? Living entities like the trees and plants, the fruit trees without flowers, the trees and plants which exist until the fruit is ripe, creepers, pipe plants and creepers which have no support, and trees with flowers and fruits. So such amazing knowledge has been given in this Srimad Bhagavatam, in this verse 19. In 20th, all the immovable trees and plants seek their sustenance upwards. So trees are the only, trees, plants, all these creepers, they are the only living entities who drink by their feet, right? They absorb the waters and various kind of ingredients. And we human beings drink water from our mouth, right? So all the immovable plants, they sustain, their sustenance is they grow upward towards the sun. And they are almost unconscious, but have feelings of pains within. So they only experience pain, they don't feel anything else. Can you imagine what kind of life it is? And the life of trees comes because of exposing their bodies. When human beings, we expose our bodies, make a show of our body, then in the next life we have to take birth as trees. The 8th creation is that of the lower species of life, and they are of different varieties, numbering 28. They are all extensively foolish and ignorant. They know their desirables by smell, but are unable to remember anything within the heart, so they have very low consciousness. Then Maitreya Muni is describing to Vidurji that the lower animals like cows, goats, buffalo, Krishna stag, the dark stags, blackish, hog, Gavya animal, deer, lamb and camel all have 2 hooves, right? So they have 2 hooves. And the horse, mule, ass, gaura, Sharba bison and wild cow all have only 1 hoof. Now you may hear from me about the animals who have 5 nails. So now even those animals have been listed. The dog, jackals, tiger, fox, cat, rabbit, sajaru, lion, monkey, elephant, tortoise, alligator, gosap, etc. all have 5 nails in their claws. They are known as panchanakhas, or animals having 5 nails. The heron, vulture, crane, hawk, bhas, bhalluka, peacock, swan, saras, chakrawak, crow, owl and others are the birds. The creation of the human beings, who are of 1 species only, but there are 4 lakh kinds of varieties of human beings, as we heard from Vishnu Puran, the reference. Only, and who stock their eatables in the belly. So this is our storehouse. Is the 9th in the rotation. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. We are all incited by fruitive activities. because of the illusion, like mirage. In the desert we are chasing the mirage, so that causes us to engage in various kind of activities. So the mode of passion is very prominent, and they think themselves happy in all aspects, and being deluded we think we are happy, but in reality we are suffering. What we get is like a relief. Somebody puts us in the water, and then right before our life is going to go out, somebody pulls us out of water, and we get this breath of relief, and we think that this breath of release is happiness. So this is an analogy given by the Acharyas. And then there are three creations, and the creation of demigods and the Vaikrita creations are the Vaikrita creations, which is different from the previously described Prakrita, natural creations. So there are 9 types of Prakrita creations and the 3 kinds of Vaikrita creations, right? But the appearance of the Kumaras is both. It belongs to both the categories. And now the creation of demigods is of 8 varieties. The demigods themselves, the forefathers, the Asuras or demons, the Gandharvas, Apsaras or angels, the 4th kind. The 5th is the Yakshas and the Rakshasas. 6th is the Siddhas, Charanas and Vidyadharas. 7th is the Bhutas, Pretas and Pishachas. Bhutas, Pretas and Pishachas, they are supposed to be higher yoni than Manushya yoni. But because in Manushya yoni it is called rare birth, because we can use this Manushya yoni to go back home, back to Godhead. You cannot do that even in some of the higher yonis, like that of Bhutas, Pretas and Pishachas. 8th is the subhuman beings, celestial singers, etc. So all are created by Brahma, the creator of the universe again. And their subhuman beings are also, now superhuman beings are above the human beings. Their subhuman beings are Kim Purushas. They have either the upper part of face of a man and then the lower part is that of animal, or they have the upper part of an animal and then the lower part of that of a human being. And at that point, Maitreya Muni, he says that I will describe you the descendants of Manu. And this is where we will be discussing in the next chapter. So in this chapter, what are the important lessons we learn? We understood that there are 5 kinds of illusions that we can fall in. So what are these 5 kinds? First is attachment. Second is hatred. Attachment causes lust. Hatred comes from envy, from understanding that, thinking that we are this body, from that. Pride. Pauper is proud of his penny. So this material energy causes an illusion that everybody has a reason to become proud. So pride is the 3rd kind. 4th is ignorance. We don't know what to do. Sometimes we don't even know what is for our benefit and what is against it. So that is a sorry state, being deluded, we feel that way. And 5th, last but not the least, which is the cause of all other force to arise, is the false identification, thinking that I am this body. So these different kind of illusions are that cause material bondage. And when we engage in devotional service, when we engage in the chanting of the holy name, we can overcome the illusions of life and come in direct contact with Lord Krishna, because when we chant the holy name, Lord Krishna and Radharani, they are dancing on our tongue. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, this is where this chapter ends. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnav ki jai, Nitaya Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. If you have any questions, please ask. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा डियर व्यूअर्स, जिन्होंने अभी अभी ज्वाइन किया है उनके रेफरेंस के लिए हम बता दें, जीव तत्व प्रभु जी ने आज कैंटो 3 चैप्टर 10 पर बहुत ब्यूटीफुल लेसन शेयर कर रहे हैं. बेसिकली हम सब ने और अंडरस्टैंडिंग डेवलप की है हाउ वी कैन ओवरकम द इल्यूजन्स ऑफ लाइफ. वी नीड टू नो दिस बिकॉज that is how we can deal with the problems, with the miseries, with the situations of our life. It is due to these illusions we are in anxiety, we are in suffering, and we go through lot of issues. So in order to serve Krishna, to come closer to Krishna, to make spiritual advancement, we need to develop this understanding from our shastras under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. So, इस वक्त अगर आपके कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं तो उन्हें कमेंट्स में लिख दीजिए, क्योंकि प्रभु जी के पास फ्यू मिनट्स हैं और वो आपके आंसर्स एड्रेस, आपके क्वेश्चंस एड्रेस कर सकते हैं.
Did
प्रभु
you
जी,
get any answers from the previous questions that you posed?
yes, Geeta Desha ji responded the 5 illusions. आपने जो पूछा था question, she has responded to that. And right now I am checking. प्रभु जी, आई डोंट सी एज ऑफ नाउ. तो कृपया करके हम सभी लोगों के बेनिफिट के लिए कैन यू शेयर इन ब्रीफ हाउ चैंटिंग ऑफ द होली नेम्स हेल्प्स अस रिमेंबर अवर रिलेशनशिप, और वो भक्ति से कैसे रिलेटेड है और हमारे गोल ऑफ लाइफ से कैसे रिलेटेड है.
Hare Krishna. Chanting of the holy name. So again, we are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. Jivera Sarupaya Krishna Nityadas. However,
रिपीट प्लीज.
so Jivera Sarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. We are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. Yet at the same time, being in this body, our senses are very dull. Atah Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave graham indriya. Sevon mukhe hi jivado soyam eva spuratyadaha. Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, he shares that our senses are very dull. They cannot perceive the name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. However, when we engage our tongue, right, Sevon Mukhehi Jivado, in the service of Lord Shri Krishna. So there are two ways of service, means our tongue can be engaged. One is in, tasting the prasadam, the remnants of. So again, that is important. And then second is the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And now by chanting, we are establishing this relationship. We are praying, oh Lord, Mother Radha, please engage me in your service. So again, Sambandh, Abhidheya and Prayojana. So these are the 3 items. First is Sambandh. Who are we? What is our relationship with Lord Shri Krishna? We are eternal living entities. We are not this body. We are eternal living entities. And what is the nature of the eternal living entity? The constitutional position is as an eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So we are servants of Lord Shri Krishna. We should be serving. So for this, we come to the 9 process of devotional service that we can engage in, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, chanting, right? Glorifying. Smaranam, by remembering, we can engage. Padasevanam, by serving the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. Archanam, by doing the deity worship. Vandanam, by singing prayers to Lord Shri Krishna. Dasyam, by being servant of Lord Shri Krishna. And then Sakyam, being a friend, favorable, Anukula Krishna Anushilam, by being favorable to Lord Shri Krishna, being friendly to him in our attitudes, in our activities. And then Atmanivedam, surrendering everything in serving Lord Shri Krishna, dovetailing all our activities and everything that we think we have been provided in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. Just by doing that, we will attain prayojana, the goal of life. And what is that? The goal of life is love of Godhead, right? And which in this particular age is Sankirtan Yagya, right? Hari Nam Sankirtan. So this is the Goloka Premadhana Hari Nama Sankirtana. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Krishna himself appearing in the mood of Radharani and is freely distributing this Goloka Premadhana. He is giving us freely without looking for our qualification, simply distributing. And Lord Nityananda, his Adi Guru, his Balaram himself, teaching us how we can serve Krishna, how we can attain the love of Godhead. They are both like sun and moon appearing and giving us the direction, giving us the light with which we can follow in their instructions and can easily attain the love of Godhead simply by the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we can be eternally happy, eternally experience transcendental bliss. Hare Krishna, this is where the session ends today. Thank you for joining us. Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai,
Jai.
Go Premanande,
Hari Hari
Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.